witnesses real UFO encounters. More and more people are realizing that UFOs and aliens were indeed real all along, and that we've all been deceived and manipulated by the forces that control the world. Explore astonishing alien encounters and harrowing experiences of very real, candid people.
Several years ago, my brother and I were driving in Northern California on a highway, and we drove under a black triangle that was sitting on the side of the road, and it appeared to be a ship, like a spaceship, or just a ship that was hovering. And it was making a buzzing sound, as if it had to do with electricity. And my brother and I drove pretty close to it and drove right under it. It wasn't moving at all. And there were other motorists in front of us and behind us. And that must have been close to 20 years ago. So the reason why I wanted to get out and kind of get under it, and my brother didn't pull over, but to me, it could have been a blimp. It could have been obviously a very heavy metal ship, but it could have been a blimp with metallic looking features, and it could have just been floating there. So I didn't think of aliens right away, but it was real, very real. And it was above us about only 500 feet, very low. There were other people that were in front and behind us, and we were all kind of honking at each other. Are you guys seeing this? Stock still. So it's absolutely here, you know, these black triangles. Other people have seen them. And then I've seen them in the distance, and I can tell by a red light that's flashing. I don't see any other kind of, I've seen them once or twice since then, further away, and I'll, you know, try to see what it is, and it has a red light flashing underneath slowly. So there are other forces here, other forces at work. No, not really. For me, it really opened up the doors to do the research and say, oh, okay, there's technology that's going on. I mean, and from there, I've just been researching, and I believe now in the vastness of the mind and of species and of life. My brother remembers it being miles or a mile wide, really large. And I would say about probably a football field, not a mile wide, but. Well, he told me years later that he's always known that I was completely fearless because I wanted to get out when he was driving. I said, pull over. I was trying to get him to pull over so I could get out and go underneath it and say, hey, look. We didn't see it leave, and it just hovered silently with a bit of a buzzing zzz. I think he always has. He was the kind of person that believed in like trees and mother spirits of the forest and stuff. So he's always believed in everything, but he wasn't willing to come face to face with it like I was.
I like to share a time when I saw a UFO. This was actually in Elderado Hills, of all places. It was in this neighborhood, it's still around, it's called Fairchild. And I was at my friend's house for his birthday party, and we were outside playing late at night. This night, we decided for some reason to throw a Frisbee in the front yard instead of a football. I mean, the irony is kind of funny because a Frisbee's a saucer. But yeah, so we're out in the front yard tossing the frisbee around. It's like a group of about like 4 of us. And it's around midnight, it's dark out, a little cloudy. And we see this huge saucer with green lights all the way around it. A little bit of clouds around the saucer. It's quiet, but it was so big, like it's hard to miss. When I saw it, it just was there. So I guess it just like appeared. We're looking at each other, tossing the frisbee around in the front yard, and look up, and it's there. And there was no way that it was a helicopter. There was no way that it was an airplane, not even a missile, because you see some of the, like, maybe you've seen the videos where like missiles might look like something crazy in the sky, but it wasn't that either, because it was hovering there for a while, and it was close enough to where like it's not a missile either, and there's not really an Air Force base around that has missiles. So I ran for the front door, and I was like, shit. But it's my friend's house. We had snuck out, so I couldn't grab the handle because that's my friend's job to quietly open and close the handle. So I turn around, I look at them, I'm like, and they're running around in circles in the front yard. So I went back out to the yard to look at it, and it was still there. It was still hovering there for about, maybe 3 to 7 seconds, 3 to 10 seconds. Yeah, probably like 5-10 seconds. And then it just slowly took off really fast, quiet, and there was a trail of green light behind it. And that's when we just were in awe. We just waited there. We almost wanted to come back, but it was gone, and the show was over, and we just went back inside, and we freaked out after that. Had I not seen it, I would have probably changed my mind, because the galaxy, the universe is so big. But I was young at the time. I didn't really UFOs, ghosts, those don't exist. I don't know why there hasn't been more sightings, but I just know that it was a UFO for sure. It was about a skyscraper up in the sky in elevation, and it was as large as all the houses and the yards in the cul-de-sac. So it was big. It was up there. It was cloudy around the saucer. It was a little bit cloudy, but you could see the lights going through the clouds, and it was huge. And ever since then, it was I just lived with it. It is what it is. It's just part of, I just accepted it and moved on, and I'm happy that I'm here so I can finally share my story publicly. Up until now, it's just been a fun story amongst my friends, because we still talk every now and then, so we always bring up that night. It was funny, one time I was going to class, and one of the friends that I saw the UFO with, he was walking with a girl. He's like, "Oh, Steven, perfect timing. Hey, what color were the lights in the UFO?" I was like, "Green." And then she was impressed. So I guess, it's a great date story as well.
Well, it happened when I was in Utah, and we lived in a really small town. Probably maybe the population was maybe 100 people. It was really small. So everybody knew each other. There was one night that I was probably about, trying to think, probably about 6 or 7 around there. And it was a normal day. Me and my sisters, we all slept together because we were too scared to sleep alone. Went to bed around 8 o'clock like we always did. And I don't know what it was, but something woke me up. I just opened my eyes. And right by my bed, I could see a figure. And it was like so close to the side of the bed that I could probably reach out and touch it. And all I remember is, sorry if I get a little edgy about this, but when I looked over at it, all I can remember seeing is the eyes. They were huge and the blackest black I have ever seen. And it wasn't like a dull black, it was, you could tell it had movement, like a wetness to it. And I remember it just staring at me. And I froze, I didn't know what to do. So I slowly turned around to the other side so my back was facing it, and I grabbed the covers and covered my head. And I managed to go back to sleep. I don't know how, but I did. And the next day, I ended up telling my sister what happened. And she told me, well, if it comes back, then you need to wake me up because I want to look at it. I'm like, I don't think you want to look at it. But she was really wanting to look at it. So the very next night, the same thing happened. I was laying there, I opened my eyes, and it was just right there by my bed. And it was probably pretty, not that tall, because it's like when I was laying at the bed at my feet, its face was like right by mine, so it wasn't tall. And I remember just getting frozen again. And it didn't move, and it just stood there. And again, the eyes, the deepness of the eyes, I couldn't talk, I couldn't really do anything. I just froze. Well, I managed to slowly turn around again, and I had my back facing it. And I tapped my sister on the shoulder and told her, I said, hey, it's here, you've got to look. And she was scared. She's all, I'm not looking at it. So she ended up handing me a doll she slept with, and she said, throw it at it. So I slowly got it over my shoulder. I didn't dare look back over at it. So I tossed the doll towards it, whatever it was, I tossed it. And I couldn't turn around and look at it. And same thing, I don't know when or how, but I managed to fall asleep. And nothing happened for a long time, except probably about 3 years later. It was me and my friend. After school, my mom said I could go to her house and to ride a horse, because she was in the rodeo and stuff. She did barrel racing, and we went to her house, and we ended up getting one horse, and it was a really good horse, tame, so we could ride it bareback. So we got on the horse and we walked down, just walking. We weren't running or nothing. We just went down into the field. And the next thing we both know, we're laying on the ground, and we look at each other, and the horse it wasn't running, we didn't fall off, it didn't buck or nothing. So we thought it was really weird. And I remember she looked at her watch, and I could only be there for an hour, but there was 2.5 hours had went by. And it felt like maybe not even, maybe 5 minutes. In a blink. It was like we were boom on the ground and we opened our eyes, but yet, 2.5 hours went by and we have no clue what happened. I think those two might be linked, I don't know. Back then I didn't know what aliens were. As a kid, I had no clue what they were. I remember telling my sister, it was a creature by the bed. That's the only way I could describe it. Like a grayish color, and now that I know more about aliens and I've seen things, the gray aliens, I'm telling you, that's what it was. Now I do. Back then, I didn't have a clue. It was just really weird, but now that I look back, I really do think that they were related. It's just, it makes no sense why we both ended up on the ground, and that amount of time went by. I really think about it all the time because I start to get emotional about it. Something about it is stuck with me, and I can't shake it. Probably I didn't really start thinking about it until probably my 30s, you know. I just totally like blocked it out, I guess. But I always remembered it, but I only recently started talking about it. I told my husband and I asked my sister, do you remember? And she remembered it. So I couldn't have been dreaming, I couldn't have been asleep because she remembers me waking her up, she remembers everything. And I mean, I really wish she would have looked. I mean, but she was so scared too. I mean, just something about the eyes really, like, I don't want to say it soaked me into something about it. And I believe in God and everything, you know. I don't know if they're demonic or aliens or whatever. I mean, but I did not get a good feeling from them.
Years ago, I was driving late at night from a gig in the city. So it was probably 2 or 3 a.m. As I'm driving by, the hillside is on my left and a light comes down on the hillside. Now, this is a low cloud that I'm seeing the light come out of, and it's a shaft of light with some very iridescent and very bright light. The light was very strange. I was right under the hill and it was kind of shining in my eyes, so I turned my engine on and expecting to hear a helicopter to explain it. But there was no sound and there's no one around and there's no facilities nearby. There's no, up on that hill, there's no electrical generators. There was silence, there was nothing. At that moment I realized, wow, I'm looking at something that's very different. I'm looking at a UFO. And as that thought came to my mind, the light disappeared so quickly, it was as if it went straight up into the cloud, and the cloud obstructed the light in a it sort of just went up. The light went up with it. And that convinced me that I was seeing a phenomenon that I'd never seen before. And as I was driving, kind of continuing up the hill, sort of in my head going, wow, I just saw this. I'm driving into this cloud. And the mist in front of me starts to float around me. And I realize that I'm driving in the snow, which is very strange because the place that I grew up, this area never gets snow. In fact, the only time it ever got something close to it in my lifetime was a lot of hail. But this was flakes of snow falling on me, falling on the car. I pulled over at this vantage point over the rest of the valley and that hillside. And I was inside of a cloud. I couldn't see much further beyond this vantage point through the fog. But it was a swirling sort of blizzard of snow in a place where there's never snow. And I went home and could barely sleep. I woke up in the morning to my neighbors telling me they're snowboarding down their driveways and that there's snow all the way to the beach. But only in our little area and not elsewhere around the area. It's a very concentrated phenomenon. And I thought that was so strange. It seemed as though the snow was caused by the UFO, or to this day, I look at clouds very differently. I have a feeling that in the moment as I was looking up at this UFO and its light shining down and no other people or even lots of lights or houses around, and I had a feeling that my consciousness somehow they were in touch with it, because the moment I kind of woke up to the fact that I was recognizing them, or it, or whatever it was, it disappeared like that. So it seemed as though it was conscious of being recognized. And then the other part was that it seemed like a really interesting place for it to be at, where this seemed like a spiritual place, you know? And it's always seemed like that kind of a place as I've grown up in the same area and driven by it. It's had this feeling of being like a sacred place. And I also noticed that just up the way from the vantage point, later on when I was telling the story to a friend, they told me that they had seen a light at the vantage point that I ended up stopping at in the cloud, but that they had been at that vantage point looking out of the valley, and that they had seen a very bright purple light that turned orange, and it kind of recognized them and came towards them, he said. And my other friends were all camping up on the ridge nearby, and the same thing, a light show came down above them in a very, very sacred place to us. It's a rock where our friends' ashes are spread, and we would go up there just to remember them when they camp out. And I couldn't make it this night, but the next morning, I got a call from someone who said that they were a friend of mine's parent, but that I'd never met. Called me out of the blue to ask me what I'd seen the night before, but I had just gone to work and gone to bed afterwards. And so I called up my girlfriend, and she was still asleep because she'd been up all night, terrified because they had seen a UFO, and she thought that they were going to be abducted. And there was a lot of they had seen this light shine down. In fact, one was looking for a light, and the light came down on them, and they're like, thanks for the light, and then looked up and realized that the entire area was illuminated from above. And this is the middle of the night, of course, and fog, of course, above. So it's like you can't see what's beyond the fog, but you see this light. And this is what they described to me. But it's very strange that the phone call I got was kind of this interview that from someone I didn't recognize their voice. And their curiosity was a little bit much, and I didn't have a lot to say, but it felt like they were really trying to get me to say something. To me, it felt like the Men in Black or something were calling me, you know? Even though at the time, I had no idea what they were talking about.
I have 2 stories in my house. I was living in the upper floor. I moved down after this happened to my downstairs level of my house. But I would like sleep on this like Papazon chair and watch TV to fall asleep. And I woke up at exactly, like I checked my phone, it was exactly 4 a.m. on the dot. And I look to my left where my window is, and I see something like staring at me. And I know it sounds crazy, but it was definitely an alien, which I just freaked out when I saw it. I saw it was like a gray face, like eyes. I had to like get up close to it to look at it to know this is real. Okay, this is crazy. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm like tripping out. I'm gonna go downstairs. Like I just can't sleep. I couldn't sleep all night. And I would continuously just start waking up every single morning at 4 a.m. on the dot. And that happened, it went on for like a month. And I just felt like something was like watching me. It was just staring at me. Like it didn't move, it just was looking at me. It was so bizarre. And it was almost like it was spying on me or just like seeing what I was doing, which was just crazy to me because I'm like, I don't know what it would want with me, but I also have seen other so last year and the year before that, I've seen like things in the sky. Like one time I was coming back from work and I was looking at the sky. I kind of live in like Wilton area where it's like, it's not much city. And so I was looking up at the sky and I know what a shooting star looks like, but this wasn't that. I saw, it was like a blue kind of light and it went like left, right, and then it just shot up in the sky. And it was like crazy to me, it was ridiculous. And I've seen a few other like I was with my friends and we were having like a little bonfire over, because I kind of live in the countryside near a lake, and we had a bonfire and we just saw all of these, just like, it was like 15 lights just moving, like in unison, like all together, like in the sky. And we were like, do you see this? Do you see? Like, we were all just staring at it together.
It happened near Hopland, California, and it was a huge paranormal experience. I'm not entirely sure what category I want to put it under, other than it was like very real and very supernatural, I guess, because it's not something that would happen in the day-to-day. I haven't really found a lot of stories similar to it, other than the ones that are kind of connected to aliens. It was just driving down Highway 101, going back home. We were kind of fighting a little bit, so I remember there being kind of a lot of noise, and then we just like stopped talking, which was weird because we usually like keep going at it. So there was like a lot of quiet, and I can't remember if there was music or not, but I think I remember there being music. And just kind of from the left of my eye, there was like a little flicker, and I remember Justin telling me that he saw like a bigger bang of that, like I saw a small version of it, and then there was just nothing around us. So it was about 7 o'clock at night, sunset, so you can definitely see outside. It wasn't dark. There wasn't any other cars around, so when we started driving up to the Hopland turnoff, we go over an arrow. So I'm like hyper vigilant and I look ahead. So I noticed we were driving over the arrow at the time when I saw the little flicker of light. So when we started driving over that, the flicker happened, and then everything disappeared around us. And we were just bathed in white. So I looked out his window and I saw Justin underneath the steering wheel he's told me later to regain vision of the road. But I was watching him, and then he was mouthing words to me. I couldn't hear what he was saying. And I looked out his window and it was just white. And then I turned around and looked behind me and it was just white. And out my window, same. So it was just all around the car. And I pulled my knees up to my chest and I felt very like small. I didn't feel dead or anything. I just felt very like tiny. And then everything kind of came back and we were driving back over the arrow. So like a little bit further than when we had started. So I noticed that, and then we pulled over because we weren't sure what happened. And at this point, things got a little bit more strange because we got out of the car, and then in an instant, Justin was 500 feet away from me. And I could hear him in my head, but it didn't sound like he was speaking to me like from 500 feet away. It sounded like he was right next to me. And I was saying, Justin, Justin, and I sounded scared. And it was coming from this part of my chest. And I usually talk from my diaphragm. So I thought that was weird because it didn't sound like something that was coming from me necessarily, because it was like two versions of me existing at the same time. And he was, like I said, by the rock wall, and he told me, "It's okay, baby, it's okay." And then when he was done saying that, another car pulled around the corner and went into our lane and drove a little bit past us and stopped, and their windows were up. And it was one of those cars that have the doors that go up on the side. So I thought that was interesting. Why are they interested in us? You know, we're not in any danger or anything. So I thought that was odd. No hazards on or anything. And when they stopped, I was looking over at them and I heard like clicking in my ears, like in my head, like click noises. I thought that was very odd too. And at some point, I remember throwing up as well after that experience. And I still don't know what happened. I don't know if we lost time. I don't know if we went back in time. I don't really know what it was. I just know that everything had disappeared. My psychic said that it was a world awakening. Like I saw the world turn like into a different dimension. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was alien related, because there was another story that happened in 1980s around the time with the Red family. And they had experienced a bright white light like that. and being actually in a spaceship. I don't have any experience of being in a spaceship, but you know, it kind of, the outline of it is the same. And since then, I have had different abilities, I guess, awakened in me, like being able to see some cool, I guess, spirit energy stuff that I wasn't like trying to do. It just started happening along with my line of work as a massage therapist. But one of the strangest occurrences since then was I went to a chiropractic office and they took an x-ray of my back, and right above my hip, there is a little black chip. And he said, it doesn't make sense why that is there. It's not your bone, it's not part of your body, and there's no entrance point. And I was like, yeah, I've never been injured there. I don't have any scarring in that area. And he goes, huh. And then he just walked out of the room. So I don't really know what that's about either. But I know that there was that happened in 2017, I want to say. A bunch of change and shifting happened. And then about 4 months later is when like energy and light started popping out of bodies of, my clients. I definitely felt a little like violated as a human. I can just do weird stuff like that around you. But other than that, I'm like, no, there's absolutely no question in my mind that they're probably like not just aliens that live with us, but also that manipulate time and space around us, and maybe accidents happen. And like some of us that are a little more aware might see it. I don't really know, but I do know that we are not the only ones in existence. And I did some seeing, like if you can see in mirrors and in crystal balls. So I was like, seeing how far my vision could be. And this like really ugly alien came up like out of nowhere into my vision, and he had all these like tentacles on the side of his head. And I just looked at him and I was like, I love you. Like, this very calmly and whatnot. And he was like, and then it just like closed, like the portal closed. Biggest things that happened that was very odd to me. Like, I don't know. I just know that this parallel shift can happen. I was eating lunch in a break room and there was no one else there. And usually there's no one else on that floor. So I was eating really messy and I had food all over my face. And this man walks in, but he wasn't fully there. It was a holographic man. So he was like he looked like he walked out of a TV screen and super like pixelated and whatnot. And he walked to the refrigerator and he opened it up and he got his food out, and then he walked to the microwave and put his food in, and he turned around and looked at me and he frowned and then turned away from me and disappeared. And I was like, maybe I'm very tired. Maybe I made that up in my head because I'm self-conscious. I don't know what that was. So I cleaned off my face and I cleaned off the table because I didn't know if that was just me doing that. And then right after I was done cleaning, the same man walked in with the same shirt, same shoes. It was the same guy. And he walks to the refrigerator, gets his lunch, goes back to the microwave, puts his food in the microwave, turns around and looks at me. This time he made conversation and talked to me. So that was like an actual, like I changed the timeline, I think, or I saw a possibility and then decided to change in action. I'm not sure like what it was, but that really for sure happened to me. That was one of my bigger experiences along with the white flash. That was kind of like, okay, I had no control over that. That just happened. I wasn't in any kind of state of mind. I was just like very relaxed and, in a different kind of vibe, I guess, like a theta brainwave vibe. But yeah, lots of different experiences like that have come out of after this white flash. So I don't know if it's a correlation or just a part of it, but it's like something I would never take away. And I really wish more people would also experience. And I'm glad that I can kind of show them that through body work. Like I accidentally help people all the time. So one of my clients was really big, and I thought that she was not gonna wanna get a massage. And she came in and was very sad. And I didn't really know how to communicate with her. So I did my best, but I kept the lights up really high because I wanted to be able to see her on the table and whatnot, so I didn't trip on anything and hurt her or whatever. I just wanted to make sure everything was good. And so when the lights were up really, really, like I said, bright, this was about maybe 30 minutes into the massage, around the room started this circle of golden lightning and sparkles, and it was beautiful. And I was maybe my fourth massage of the day, going into work. And it was moving so fast, my hair was actually moving with it. Like, I could feel it, you know. And I was like, okay, so this is really happening. I'm not gonna ignore this one. And I was like, okay, well, this is very odd for me, you know, massaging. And I was like, but there's like the biggest circle of protection I've ever seen around you. I just feel like I need to tell you that. And then without skipping a beat, she started sobbing, like shoulders shaking, sobbing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. And she's like, no, you didn't. You're like, you have no idea how much that meant to me. I just put in a prayer request on Sunday for God to tell me that he was looking after me. And you just answered my prayer. Like, there was no reason for you to tell me that. My best friend just died, and I didn't think I had anyone left that cared. And I really just needed to know that. I saw on one of my clients, she was thinking about a tattoo of her fiance. So Nick was coming out on her back. And I was like, I was just massaging her. And this is like after, I don't even know how many visions, like 10. And I was just getting tired of it. I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna say something this time. Who's Nick? And she's like, huh? I was like, I was just curious who Nick is. Like, just want to know, you know, so I'm massaging. And she's like, that's my fiance. Like, we're getting married. And I was thinking about getting his name tattooed on my back and this cool, like, lightning. I was like, yeah, I just was watching that right across your back. That's why I was asking you about it. And she's just got, like, I could see her get goosebumps. And she was like, yeah, that's awesome. I was just thinking about it, literally, as you said it. It is something that I feel like is only during allowed times. It's not something that I can just walk by and see people's thoughts coming off, you know, out of their head. Like, it's both parties are involved with a kind of a consent of, you can see this much of me.
The events that happened to me in my early 20s, around 2012, when I lived in a barn very isolated at the end of a gravel road, were always unnerving to me, and anytime that I can get to tell somebody about it who will listen, I can't wait to do so. I started hearing humming noises that would come from underneath, honestly, it would feel like, you know, but it would just shake my fridge. It would make anything that was clanking, like dishes in the sink, it would kind of clank. You could just hear this hum in different places in your home on top of the humming beneath you that you could feel. My cats would perk up and their ears would, you know, immediately they'd be hearing it and they'd be trying to kind of find where the noise came from, and I could always tell the difference in their behavior when the humming would start. This would happen in the evening, different times, but it would always span for about 30 minutes to an hour. The humming noises were also coupled with things like I would notice in the nighttime that there would be lights in my woods, multiple. I was just at my barn one day talking to my best friend on the phone, and they and I were just having a normal conversation, and I noticed that somebody was coming down my road. And when someone comes down the road where the barn was, it was, you were coming to my house because I was the last person on that long road. And so if you got that far down the road without stopping at anybody's house, you're there for me. Looks as like an older hatchback situation that would be in that area, so very blended in. I was like, is this somebody that knows me? Is it somebody that knows my dad that used to own this, that owns this land and that used to be here a lot? I just was unsure about who it could be, but I was on alert. They started driving at such a slow pace down my driveway. I had no idea who this person could be at this point, because it's a gravel road, but to drive this slow was very odd. So at this point, I'm just grappled with like, just seriously, what's going on? Because it took forever, and I'm on the phone with my friend. She's like, tell me what's going on. I'm like, I don't know. They drive all the way down my driveway up to my barn to where I always park on one side, and I can see perfectly into their car. I'm looking down and I can see perfectly into their front windshield, and it is this, my brain was just trying to put all the pieces together. My friend's asking me what's going on, and I had seen what I thought to be an elderly person driving down my road in a more beat up car. But as I can make this clear image out in front of me, this person is in the car, this thing is in the car, and they had sparse white pieces of hair on their giant white, not like triangular, but like oblong head with slit eyes, like big, big eyes, and they were looking down at a cell phone. And I just was, in a trance. It literally sat there for a few minutes, and probably not even a minute, but it felt like forever. And then just put the car in reverse and backed up slow, and backed up around that corner that it turned the first time to when I could see that it was someone elderly or something like that, and then starts driving out of my driveway almost as slow as it drove down. Like something you would see, that we've seen for years and years, these depictions, but it was right in front of me in real life, like 5D, we're out here, I see every angle of it. And the way that the eyes were moving, it's like corpse skin, if you would. But it wasn't like rotten or anything like that. It was just not something that had any type of redness to the skin or melanin at all. Their head was very large. It was the first thing that I noticed. The skinny arms holding the iPhone, everything was just, it was just like something, when you tell somebody, they'd be like, what are you on? And the arms were skinny, the shoulders, and then the head just so big. And then it was those eyes that were just like dark and just moving like in this way where I could see the light reflecting off of them. But like I said, they didn't look up and make eye contact with me. But I could see that the eyes were focusing on the phone and focusing down, and then they just put it into reverse and back out the driveway, and never once making eye contact with me, as if I wasn't even there or that no one was there.
I want to talk about the Kecksburg incident that happened in 1965. I was walking with a friend on a dirt road. It was up by a hunting cabin in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And it was in the evening. And I remember that there's a big explosion, like a sonic boom. And the whole sky turned like a bluish, greenish purple. I'd never seen that color before, but what was odd about it was electrified. It was almost like if you have a balloon and you pop a needle in the top, the energy that happened when this thing came through the atmosphere, whatever it was. And when I saw it come down, it looked like this painting behind me. That's what I saw. I saw something greenish, glowing, and frightening, because the whole sky was lit up like daytime with this weird glow. Then it hit. You also felt the thump. You didn't just hear the sonic boom, but you heard it hit. I was only about a mile away. We jumped over like there was like a bank, and we jumped over by the creek and hid, because we were frightened as hell. What was so scary about it was your hairs were on edge. I have curly hair anyway and frizzy hair, but it was very, very, you could feel it. So that's why I remembered it. That's why in my lifetime as an artist, I kept doing paintings of meteors and things and spaceships and, whatnot. I was 10 years old then in 1965. And I remember, it wasn't that, it was like semi-snow, but it was real warm after that happened. It wasn't cold. But then again, whenever you're all excited and your adrenaline's going, you're feeling that way anyway. But when we went back and told our grandparents and my mother and my grandmother and that, they said they heard something, a sonic boom, and the next day there was some talk about it. The Army's a different situation. So with Kecksburg happened, and you have all this activity that doesn't come into town. No one comes into town. No one's coming into town for anything. All of a sudden, there's all these trucks coming into Kecksburg. You're going to notice that. You're going to notice something like that. So that's why people were talking, and farmers. Everybody knows everybody. And we didn't own that cabin up there. My grandfather's friend did. And we were going up to pick him up. I think it was from deer hunting, because it was deer hunting season. It was after the first week of deer hunting in December. So he would have been coming home. And I was just out for a walk with my friend, and I think we had our fishing poles with us too, because even though it was winter, they had these streams there in ponds where you just do your line and you catch a guppy, you catch something. You would catch something. So it was fun when you were 10 years old to do that. So that's why I remember all those specifics of it, because I liked being in the woods, but never had anything like that happen to me in the woods. What I could explain it was like if you get that balloon thing, everything was supercharged within that area, because it was like a valley. It was like a little valley kind of. Everything within that area, within that, was supercharged, including the ground, including the ground. The ground was affected by radiation. I don't know, something powerful. But I do felt that when it came through the atmosphere, it was like a balloon and coming through and exploding, with either sonic boom or something. And the color and everything was like, what? I thought, Russia attacked us or something. That's what I thought. I thought it was a nuclear bomb, no doubt. I was waiting for the nuclear bomb, So you have that feeling of wonder where it's beyond your intelligence to figure this one out.
I got an experience that's just very recent. It's right here in Reno. I was working in Sparks for a little recycle shop in town, and it's about 2:30 in the afternoon. And me and a co-worker were separating some aluminum and stainless steel from different barrels or whatever. And out of the blue, my co-worker, he's just like, it's about time those little aliens start showing up. And he's got like a southern drawl. And the way he said it, it was just, I thought it was funny. And then I kind of did, I was like, what, why would you even say that? Where'd that come from? And just when I said that, I look up and I see it. Now, mind you, this is 2:30 in the afternoon. A green star, it's perfect. I'm looking right at it, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, look, Brian. And he's like, I knew it, I told you. With that draw, and all of a sudden I was like, this is insanity. And so I got my binoculars in the shop. I get my binoculars, and I'm looking at this thing through my binoculars, and its structure is like an upside down triangle, and it's up the side, and it's got like little levels. You can see there's something there. You can't make it out to where like, oh yeah, there's levels, but there's structure there. It's like, and then Brian's always like, yo, there's another one, and this one's white, and it's across the way. Same thing, upside down. So we're sitting there, and I'm watching. I'm amazed. I'm just like, there's got to be other people that have seen this. This is going to be on the news tonight. Someone's going to see it, So with that being said, the airport's right there, and some jets take off, start making their way up that way. And I don't know if you ever see like the big vapor trails. Okay, there's those white planes. They make the vapor trails, but two of those start coming in, but there's no vapor trail. Nothing. It's just those two planes going there, and then you got the jets going up over there. And then those little buggers, they just, not fast, not slow, not like, ungodly speeds, just bugged out. But I believe him now. All the stuff that he's told me about, they'll put little bugs on you. They're made out of metal, and they'll get under your skin, and they're just there, and you can't get them out. And I've had my accounts in the past. So I'm a believer already. Right. I know exactly what's going on. I know they're here. They've been here. If I've been seeing this stuff when I was a kid, come on. And I've seen here's another one. 4 months ago, I was walking back from the shop, and I was going downtown Reno, 4th Street, just where the freeway meets 4th, and I was heading over towards CARES campus. And out of the corner of my eye, I see what looks to be like a diamond. It was a diamond, and it was just getting dark. And I could see this diamond. It was just a black shaped diamond, and all of a sudden just goes and turns real fast, kind of like that, and then just bugs out like that. And I was just like, I've never seen a drone look like a diamond. I'm sure they're out there. It was about the size of a plane, you know? It was about the size of a plane. At first, I thought it was in the shape of a boomerang, and it looked like a boomerang for some reason. Then when it was turning around, that's when you could see it was like a elongated diamond. It just turned around and just went with the other way. So and then I got to thinking, I was like, is that why we streak so much? All these clouds is so in case something is there, you could see it, move the clouds, you know, like, because if it's got a cloaking device, and they do exist, you know, it's gonna move. It's gonna move something. I probably think they're like us. Could be friend and foe. Depends how you come at them. You know, look at the movies. You know, we're depicting them as you know, harmful creatures. They might be. Maybe they do want to probe us. I get the feeling they don't, because there's nothing up there. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's just, you know, maybe we're them a long time ago and they're trying to fix shit, and you're like, hey man, these guys are still jacking shit up, man. We gotta, you know, intervene somehow.
My experience about the UFOs that I seen back when I was 12. So we were taking my brother to boot camp to drop him off, and we were driving across the bridge, and across the distance we could see a light, and it was coming closer very slowly, just kind of coming towards us. And then we seen it get really super close, and we all rolled down our windows. Now in the car was my mother, my father, myself, and my oldest brother. And we all put our heads out. All traffic is now stopped on the bridge because we're not the only ones seeing this. We put our heads out. It's literally, I would say, 20 feet above the car. It's very close. No sound, completely silent. So something that's above you that's completely silent should have some sort of engine sound. It had nothing. It was just silent. And it looked like as though you were looking at the underneath side of a house. It was flat. It wasn't this saucer. It was just flat and like square with, you know, a couple of dimensional squares, you know, off of it. And so we were just in awe watching it, and then all of a sudden it starts to go away slowly, and then it just and takes off out of sight that quick. Couldn't hear nothing. It was like dark, but it had lights around. To us, it kind of reminded us like a runway, how lights outline the street, but it was outlining the object. It covered about 4 car lengths because like I said, there was all of us stopped on the bridge. But here again, I was 12, so to me, I was like, I'm looking at this thing, looking at how many other people around are seeing this. And you could see the people in the cars next to us doing the same thing, heads out the windows pointing, oh my gosh, what is this? And it was huge and the strangest. I had chills. I was asking my parents, what is that? And of course, my father says to me, well, it's probably just something the military is working on. And I said, no, I've watched E.T. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was a UFO. But after that point, I 100% believed. My brother says, this is what I'm in for. This is going to be cool. He's all we got. And what's really cool is, had I been on a bus, because he could have taken a bus down, but instead we chose to drive him. He goes, had I been on a bus and tried to tell you guys this story, nobody would have believed it. He's all, but we all seen this together at the same time. After that, I just watch the skies now. I'm always looking at the skies, the clouds. It's completely amazing to me. I see, you know, different things and I go, that looks odd, you know, in the sky, or a light go by at nighttime or something. And I think, hey, that's really quick to be, you know, an airplane or a helicopter. I wonder what's really up there.
My particular favorite that I'd like to talk about was an experience, not necessarily an experience I had, but more of evidence that I had just happened to have. Back in 2017, I was just getting started as a freelance photographer, and I was tapped to do this special event at Thunderhill Raceway in California. And I just happened to be in the paddock shooting the main engineer, the lead engineer, giving an interview regarding their product and their technology. And afterwards, after I was going through the photos and sending everything off, you know, something told me to just take a look closely at the sky, you know, that sort of thing. Usually I'm used to seeing artifacts in my photos. I'll just, you know, spot correct those and everything and then send them out because nobody wants any distractions. But this particular spot just looked a little too strange for me. Instead of just like just a sphere or a spot, like a dust spot, it was actually long, more cigar shaped. And it was kind of one of those blink if you miss it kind of things. I could have easily just sent off the photo without realizing that was there, or just removing it altogether. And I decided not to. I decided to take a closer look at it, and I created an enhanced version when I realized there's something in the sky that wasn't there when I shot the photos, because I distinctly remember it being a completely clear blue sky that day. I don't know what it was. I know what it isn't. It didn't look like a bird. To me, it didn't look like an airplane. It could have been really anything, but I think it's more the fact that I don't know what it is that makes it much more interesting. You know, it's the unknown that makes these kind of stories more interesting. I believe we're not alone in the universe. I believe that there's a lot of things that we simply do not know, and it would be foolish of us to think that we know everything and think that you know, things are very finite, when in reality we barely know enough about our own oceans than we know about, you know, space and the cosmos.
This was around, I'd say about the year 1977, I guess, 76, 77. And my dad and our family would go fishing at night and for crappie sometimes, or perch, in a state where I grew up in Texas, and we were on Lake Conroe. Dad and I were sitting there, and Mom, and Dad says, you know, there's something up there. And this was probably about 10 o'clock at night, I'd say. And above the bridge over there from the distance up, there's like a triangle of light. It was like a white light, a red light, and like I'd say more like a blue light in a triangle formation. And I'd say it was probably hovering around about 1,000 feet, maybe, something like that, maybe 2,000 feet. And there was no sound. And my dad kept noticing, do you see that over there? Do you see those three lights like that, and that triangle looking? I said, yeah, I do see that. And he said, you know, it's been sitting there and we don't hear anything. He goes, I think that's a UFO. I said, are you sure that's not a helicopter or just a plane or something? And I looked, I thought, you know what? It stayed there in that one spot and wouldn't move. And the more I looked at it, and I thought, something's going on there. And it probably stayed there for about, I'd say 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And that entity moved faster than you could blink an eye out of that spot in the sky. Well, that was a pretty good distance away. I'd say probably maybe 4 miles away, 3 miles away up in the air. It had to have been the size of, I'd say, a 747 in length, but more of a triangle. The entity itself was differentiated by the night sky just a little bit enough to see that it was a triangle. Just enough. You know, you see stars, there was nothing in that spot between those triangle lights. There was no stars, there was nothing, no light, there, nothing in this spot. All you saw was these 3 lights. And I'm telling you, that thing took off faster than a blink of an eye. We never heard about anything on TV, but we definitely saw that in the night sky as we were fishing. I have this theory, okay, that the reason there is Area 51 is because they did find something back then. And they were actually riding in or testing out alien technology that's far advanced than we ever could imagine. And they have it down there somewhere. I do believe that 110%. I would almost stake my life on that. But I witnessed it firsthand. So, and this was in a summer night, probably somewhere in August of 77, yeah. And yeah, it was definitely in the night sky above across from the bridge. I'd say about 3 or 4 miles away. It was definitely past this bridge over the lake, and you could see it. It just showed itself up. And Dad was the one that told me about it, you know. And then I looked up and I saw that. It zipped away faster in the blink of an eye. I'll tell you that. It just zipped away in the blink of an eye.